Welcome, it's Jeremy Allen Gould. I'm coming to you today to confirm between God and of man that in fact, the rumors that you have all heard are true. I started this podcast because I freaking love music. I was privileged enough to book amazing artists and bands in the past, and I was lucky enough to stay in touch with many of them to this day. This is a place to hear their stories. Thank you so much for riding along on this journey, and I hope you enjoy what you hear. With that said, the rumors are definitely true.
Hey, thank you for tuning in to this latest episode of the Rumors Are True podcast. My name is Jeremy, and today I welcome my friend, Manny Contreras. You know Manny from the band Impending Doom, Bleeding Through, and The Devastated. Manny and I talk about his beginning in the music industry, as well as all the records and tours he's played on. Awesome conversation with an old friend I used to book back in the day. So what an awesome opportunity for this podcast, and thank you, Manny. So hope you enjoy this latest episode with Manny Contreras. Manny, thanks so much for coming on my podcast, man. It's been a while.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it was nice to catch up last year at Furnace Fest for a little bit, and Jacksonville before that. But man, tell me, what is going on in your life currently, buddy?
Well, oh man. Well, currently, I mean, first and foremost, life is great. Life is really good. I mean, I have a really good job.
Le Labo.
Yeah, Le Labo. So it's a fragrance brand. It's a vegan fragrance brand that we're known for making our fragrances by hand, fresh to order. With like no preservatives, no parabens. Yeah, it's very different. I never thought in my life that I would be making perfume, but it's super insane. Like if you're into a lot of things, you can kind of appreciate everything behind it. You know, it's just kind of like that deeper interest in people that are into like super fine cigars, super good coffee.
That's me.
Know,
yeah.
Wine, just different regions of where you're kind of sourcing different ingredients, etc. It's kind of similar in that kind of world. It's a specific niche for sure. But yeah, I've been very fortunate with that. I mean, my job's here in Los Angeles, so that's one of the big reasons I'm still here. Also my family for sure. But
sure.
I think I'm reaching that point in my life where I need to get out of the city. It's time for me to get out of here. Yeah.
Are you wanting to leave the state, or are you just the city?
I mean, all my band members, David and Brooke, have been pushing me to move to Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like everything that I like is there. Space, grass.
Whataburger?
Not so much Whataburger, but yeah, I mean, if all goes as planned, hopefully I'll make that transition. So
that's cool.
Yeah, but I mean, everything else is great. I mean, the band is still trucking. Like, I forget that that's a part of my life at times, but we're still writing music. We should be putting out something relatively soon. We're coming out with, before we launch the music, we want to make sure that we have like new merch.
Yeah, I saw that you did a drop situation. And stuff. That's cool.
Yeah, no, we definitely like to continue to consistently put things out there. But the music is coming. I mean, we have a show next Friday in Austin, so it's super exciting. And then we have another show planned for October. So
that's
getting
cool.
the ball rolling.
That's exciting, man. Any potential tours in the future at all, or just spot dates?
No, not necessarily. I've been talking with Brandon from Bleeding Through. They're doing a 20-year "This Is Love, This Is Murderous" thing
Nice.
in California. So maybe we'll hop on that. We're trying to work it out, but that'll be something else to look forward to before the year's over. We
Okay.
definitely need to play like a home show. The last time we were going to play a Glass House show, it kind of like fell through with the city, but it's been a long time. I mean, we're from Riverside, California, so
Yeah.
it's been a minute since we played like our home. So
Yeah.
we're long
Well,
overdue.
Maybe in the future. Who's to say?
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
That's cool. That's cool. Sweet, man. Let's go back a little bit and talk when you and I first met. I was booking shows in Wichita, Kansas, and I, had this tour come through. There's Acacia Strain, Despised Icon, Full Blown Chaos, Lygia, Tony Danza, Tap Dance Extravaganza, which I've actually never said that
So
name
crazy.
in full. And I know you guys emailed me, and I had just heard of you guys signing to Face Down, and I was like really intrigued by you guys. And I told you guys, I can't pay you, but you guys can play. And you guys came, and it was a monster show, like a monster show.
Amazing show.
I know.
was-
The cap's 150, and there was 600 kids, and it was icy storm, if I remember correct.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was cold
Insane.
and blistery, and you guys played, and it
Super
freaking
memorable.
ruled. Yes, bro.
Yeah, I think we were out because back in the day, I mean, we were on tour with My Children, My Bride in Whitechapel, and back then, like, no one really knew any of those bands, So
Yeah.
we had scattered dates, I believe, and we were fortunate enough just to hit you up via email or like was it MySpace?
No, it was
Maybe
email. It was email.
It was
might
email.
have been.
Oh,
I don't
crazy.
know. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it was that easy, and there was these bands that were just like huge bands to us, because we
Yeah.
were just beginning. I mean, this is our first real Impending Doom tour, and we're like, whoa, we're gonna play with Despised Icon. Acacia Strain would be so sick. And we got to play it, and it was amazing. I remember feeling super cool because we had like these Vader caps. I remember when Vader caps were like in, we
Yeah.
stacked them high, and it was a super memorable show. And the dudes in Despised Icon were so cool. The dudes in Tony Danza were super awesome. I mean, we always are, somewhat hesitant in who we play with, just
Sure.
because we have that Christian kind of background, so we never know if like, are people going to be, cool, or
Yeah.
we're just going to be like, these little punk ass kids, with their.
But you guys held your own,
perspective
man.
way
You
of
guys held
life.
your own for sure. And,
Yeah, no, it was super great. Yeah, I remember the weather too. It was crazy.
I know. It was
But
nuts.
it was so fun. It was so much fun. I love that, and I miss that so much.
That's sick. Yeah, I miss. Like I was telling you earlier, like I enjoyed doing that. Maybe I was telling someone else, but I literally don't miss that, but I miss the hang. I miss the chill sesh, and I miss working with great people. That to me, relationships are everything. And so for me, I loved being a part of something cool and bringing music to the town that I was living in at the time. And you guys were just a part of that chapter. So always had nothing but love for you guys, and always
Yeah, man, appreciate
supported you
that.
guys. And I got to pay you guys that night, which was nice because it was such a good
No,
show.
we were very thankful. I mean,
I know
back
you
in the
were.
day, you could do things. I think our guarantees were like $150 back
Yep.
then, or something. But you could buy gas back then. I don't know
Yeah.
how people are doing it nowadays.
I
Man.
don't
It's
either,
insane.
I know.
But what's special is that now it's now our kind of MO is just to kind of have fun. Is continue to put out fun, like kind of creative music that is still punishing and heavy. But there was a point in our kind of career where we were just doing this so consistently, where it was kind of like a source of income too. And now I'm glad that it's just like we just get to do this for fun on the
great,
side. Play shows here and there. And it's reminiscent of all those times where we just didn't care and we just wanted to play.
Yeah,
So it's kind of
absolutely,
like full
man.
circle. So it's great.
That's rad, dude. I love hearing that, man. Sweet, man. Well, let's talk about you growing up. When did you start first playing guitar, and maybe some bands, music, records that kind of influenced you once you picked that guitar up? Let's talk about that for a little bit.
Oh man, well my story is super interesting, and how I became somewhat of a guitar player. But how I got into, I mean, I've always loved music, always. It's just something that I don't know. Every time I was just super interested in different kinds of bands. But the story goes is that I did really good in elementary school, and I won some kind of like a scholarship thing for this after school program to play music. And my mom would put me in anything. She put me in like basketball and whatever she could put, whatever I could get into, she put me in. So I went to this class and I got super excited because I thought I was going to play guitar. I thought I was going to play drums or something like that. And I got there and they gave us all accordions. So I was like, what the hell is this? Like, I'm not going to do this, but I wanted to make my parents proud. And I was super miserable. So I did it, and I did the course. I remember taking the accordion home and trying to play and, practicing. Every single course you had to come and play a song in front of the class. So it got me like somewhat confident in playing and just kind of understanding music. But it came time for the parents to buy the accordions for their students. And the accordions were like thousands of dollars. And
wow.
My parents I was really poor when we grew up. So they were like, yeah, screw this. We're going to get you a guitar. And I was like, amazing. Great. So I got some money, and my cousin, he was in this kind of like new metal kind of band. I think the band name was like called like Mobius Strip, but it was super like Deftones influenced.
Yeah.
And the first song I ever learned how to play after he got me like hooked up with a decent guitar and like a little Korg tuner and just like this little like Marshall amp. The first song he taught me how to play was Bored. I mean, it was just a simple kind of like pattern holding one fret. And ultimately that became my entire Impending Doom career, holding the one fret and just coming up with patterns and inverted chords. But yeah, I mean, that's what influenced me. It was just like these grooves, these patterns, and the tone, and just heavy, this grit, this aggressiveness behind the music itself. I've just always wanted to play,
Yeah.
So that was a big thing for me. And then the story of Impending Doom goes in high school. Like, I got into a lot of music. I remember I loved the Ramones. I loved Kiss. I just loved like weird stuff. And then I started getting to more like kind of like punk hardcore.
Yeah.
Bands at the time, I think were like super notable were like Evergreen Terrace, Until I Die. Yeah. What was it? Yeah, just bands off like, I think they were all eulogy bands.
Yeah.
And then a lot of local bands. There was a band called The Final Burden that I really loved. I mean, obviously like Suicide Silence and local stuff like that. But it's now massive. So Brooke knew that I loved music, and he was like he was very popular in high school. Everyone knew Brooke Reeves. Like, he played football, he played baseball. He was in like we would do like school assemblies, and he would like dance in front of the school for like rallies and stuff. And it's just like a very popular, typical high school dude with like Zac Efron hair, long hair, and
got the charisma.
Yeah, he won. What is it called? I don't know, like valedictorian or something. I don't know what it's called when you win some kind of like summer thing. I remember they crowned him and whatnot. He was just like the popular kid in school, and would just wear like flip flops and drove like a Camaro, a red Camaro, the typical kind of like asshole. But he knew I liked heavy music, and one day we were just walking past in like during the hallway, like the lunch area, and he goes, "Hey, your name's Manny, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You like heavy music?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." He's like, "You want to start a band?" And I was like,
"Whoa,
sure." And sure enough, that night or after school, he picked me up in his Camaro with my little amp, and we just went to go jam with these kids. And we just were in a garage, like everyone was doing their own thing and just playing, and slowly things would kind of come together.
Wow.
And that was kind of ultimately the beginning of me and Brooke playing music. Obviously, we phased out so many people. There was another person who we started really playing like breakdowns. We would just do breakdowns, and we would bring people in, and people would just get so upset at us because we would just play breakdowns over and over again in the back room. And like kids who were like probably way better musicians would be like, "All right, let's try to structure a song." We would just be like, "No, Like, we just want to play this over and over again. And they would get mad. This kid would get so upset. I remember he would like wrap up his cables and just like get ready to leave just because we weren't like super serious. But ultimately that turned into Impending Doom.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember when we were thinking of band names, it was either going to be called like Rigor Mortis or Impending Doom, and we stuck with Impending Doom. And yeah, it was super fun. Like, that's all we did. Well, I mean, that's actually a lie. Our first band was called On Sacred Ground.
Oh, okay.
And we played one show. We were super involved with like the Redlands community, so we would hang out with like all the Death Star guys, and they always had shows at the gazebos in Redlands. And I remember we opened up the show. I think Death Star was going to play, or maybe it was like Sleeping Giants' first show or something. I don't remember. But we played one entire song, and everyone moshed. And then we played the second song, and during the second song, they shut us down. So that was their first like real Doom show. But then we kind of got like more solidified with our band members and ourselves and our song structures and so and so. But yeah, we were officially Impending Doom, and our first show ever was at a skate park on Halloween with a band called Crematorium.
Oh yeah,
Final Burden and Graf Orlock. Wow. And that was like that was the beginning of the end right there.
What were the other bands that weren't Christian? Were they respecting you guys, or were they just like kind of like looking over you?
Yeah, I mean, Brooke just growled. You know what I mean? And there was no kind of like understanding of anything he was saying.
What do you guys say?
So it was just like pissed. And we always like back then we always just played with hoodies and it was just kind of like a little dark and heavy, and we were kind of like more like believe it or not, it started kind of like more like grindy. It was like fast, dirty, and just heavy. I mean, we listened to the most disgusting stuff, and that's what interested us the most. I mean, believe it or not, we listened to like a lot of Aborted and Circle of Dead Children, the most like grotesque. The worst bands. Yeah. Orchidectomy. We would listen to some crazy crap. Guttural Secrete. It was just not in line to what we believed in, but that's what we liked.
Sure.
You know, no, Putrid Pile. Man, we used to play shows with our homies Pencil Lead Syringe and another band called I've Been Shot, and it was just us, Impending Doom.
That's amazing.
Yeah, shout out to all those homies and our other homies in like Paramount called the Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Believe it or not, they were another Christian band that was like super into like just disgusting grind death metal.
Dang.
It was like kind of crusty too. It was crazy.
That's cool.
That's what we liked.
When you started, obviously Impending Doom, when did you start to kind of find your sound? Essentially, was it pretty early on? I know you kind of mentioned the grind element, but obviously you guys kind of went a little bit different path. And when did you start to kind of realize that? And when did Face Down kind of come into the picture?
Okay, so we did an EP, and we just kind of wrote. It was like more kind of like technical. We had a guitar player who was playing with us. His name was Chris Forno. He was really good. He was a phenomenal guitar player, and he just had this interesting, like very unique way of playing. But it ultimately was like kind of like me and Brooke just wanted to do like simple, heavy. Yeah. So it was like his writing was incorporated, and then we kind of like added things where we just kind of slowed things down. It was like it was way more simplified. So it was a combination of both in the beginning. So it was like super part, really no structure, just like riff, heavy, etc. There was really, like I said, no musical structure like there is in like a lot of our songs today. And that's what I felt like was unique about us in the beginning, because it was just constant chaos.
It's like punishing.
It was just fun. And then we did our own thing. We didn't care. We didn't care. We didn't know. We didn't know really music. We just did 100% our own thing. And I think that's what kind of really set us apart. And we're happy doing it. You know, you can tell when a band is having a good time.
Totally.
You know, going crazy with their music. And that's what we did too. We would just go ape shit. Like,
yeah,
we would go as crazy as we possibly could. And we started playing local shows. I became friends with Joe at Showcase, which is a very notable venue in all of our childhood for a lot of like Inland Empire kids, LA kids. I mean, the Showcase Theater was a core, you know, thing in our style of music for all bands. And he started putting us on shows. And I got to curate some shows there too with a lot of local people, and slowly we started getting more and more recognized. But as far as like the transition to Face Down, Sleeping Giant was starting around the same time, and I had a past with all the Redlands dudes. I played for Death Star for a lot of the beginning times of Impending Doom. They actually took me on my first tour with Travis Boyd, who was the original drummer of Sleeping Giant, and also Corey Johnson was the original guitar player. I was like 14, like touring with all these guys. That's with nuts. Tattoos all over their bodies, and there were some insane moments where we met other people. You know, it's like first time I witnessed like crews and people carrying around guns and like fights and stuff. And I was just this little kid, and I was like, "Well, is this reality? Is this what it's like out here?" It's pretty crazy, but it was fun. It shaped me. It taught me a lot, and I'm very thankful for all the experiences with Death Star. It was super cool. We went to play like really great shows, to playing like basement shows in the middle of nowhere, unexpected like van issues. It was hard, you know.
I bet it was.
If it was tour, that was that lifestyle, and
the grind, bro.
The grind was insane. You never knew where you're going to get thrown at. You never knew what was going to come every single day. So sometimes some promoters didn't want to pay too. It was crazy.
Oh yeah.
It was insane. It was super cool though. It was a great experience. But Eric Gregson was really close with Jason Dunn from Face Down, and they collaborated on some kind of label. And they're like, it was Face Down, but also I think Eric Gregson had his own thing called like Eyewitness Records or something. And they're like, let's put these two bands out on Face Down. There was like partially Face Down and Eric Gregson's label. So we were one of them. Impending Doom and Sleeping Giant was the other band.
Nice.
So that's how we kind of got on the Face Down radar. And right when we got on, it was just, they put us on tours. I mean, we started breaking like Face Down record sales. I remember we were in Florida one day when our record came out, and it was like first day sales. I think the record for Face Down was like 250. I forget what band. I think it was like Nodes of Randy or like War of Ages. They had like a very impressive first day, and we broke that first day sale. I remember we like woke up in the morning. We had like sleeping bags in some person's house, and we were just like stoked. I remember Brooke was so excited.
That's sick.
Yeah, never did we think. And I mean, it was probably like 350 we sold first day. You know, it's nothing in comparison to bands today, but it just made us super happy.
Absolutely.
You know, we were stoked about it. And then our first week sales were amazing. And then, I mean, it just started happening. It just literally started happening. We started touring consistently with so many bands. It was like we were touring like 8 months out of the year, and that was a big part of our life for like 8 to 10 years. You know?
Unbelievable.
Insane, yeah. And then we headlined Face Down Fest in our hometown and sold out. And we're like, oh my gosh, like the capability of this band is crazy. I mean, I don't know if there's some type of anointing or, you know, are we like somewhat decent? I mean, we're still contemplating that. You know, sometimes it blows my mind when I run into people that are just like, oh, you played in this band, so-and-so, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you know that. Just because our bubble is so small.
Sure.
But it gets bigger. It's probably the biggest that it's ever been now, to be completely honest with you.
Love that, man. Love that.
Yeah, and it's it was just freaking pedal to the metal. It was just playing a show every single day, being the stranger in a new city, figuring out what the hell to do, what to eat, who to trust.
That's awesome. Let's talk about your first record on Face Down, Nailed Dead Risen, the intro to the band, you know, for most of us. Yeah, let's talk about that record and maybe some thoughts from that time and kind of what your thoughts were when you heard it and just looking back on it, how do you feel about it?
Oh man, I mean, looking back at now, I mean, I'm stoked that we got to create that record. Musically, I'm like, I don't want to listen to it just because it's just so bad, recording wise, and I don't know what the hell I was doing guitar wise or anything like that, like song structurally. It's kind of like looking at your first painting, in being some kind of like artist in that sense.
Sure.
But I think it was great for the time. I mean, MySpace helped us tremendously, and it was just also that sound in our bubble was kind of like really non-existent. There wasn't so many like kind of. I know now it's the genres are so insane. I think we'd probably be considered metalcore or deathcore or something like that. But back then, it was just like it was just dirty.
Yeah,
dirty,
it was different.
Heavy music. It was super different. Yeah, I mean, Brooke was doing pig squeals and gutturals, and it was chaos.
Yeah.
But slowly into the songs, we started becoming more, musically kind of aware and structures and on parts that we kind of wanted to repeat. And then, like towards the end of it, I remember I felt like we have gotten just a hair better in doing whatever the hell it is that we're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, for the time, I think it was perfect.
Yeah.
It's very nostalgic. It's cool. I think that might be our most, maybe the second one, probably the most notable within kind of like people in our genre that are other musicians,
Yeah.
That one and our second one, Serpent Servant, were definitely the big shifts in our career.
Yeah.
But it was awesome to write. We did that we did Nail Dead Risen with Chris Eck in Corona. He's a good friend of ours, and we just wanted to do something completely, something that we were comfortable, and someone that he was already much better and much further along in like studio work and whatnot. So we didn't know nothing. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like I went in there with I think it was like I had like a Schecter guitar and a 5150 head, and try to figure out tones and whatnot. But it was a fun experience going there, recording, and trying to learn pinch harmonics and things like that.
Yeah. When they played it on the mains for the first time, when it was all mixed and everything, what were your thoughts? Were you just blown away, or were you stoked?
Yeah, I think at the end of any kind of record, everyone is super stoked because there's like a point where you can't change anything anymore. Like us being musicians, we always like want to change things, and we're never like kind of fully satisfied with how something is. So yeah, ultimately like listening back and like just knowing that the song is done. Yeah, there's something very fulfilling about that, and just being okay with like the way that it is.
Sure. Sure.
It's just like it's done. This is what it is. This is what you get. This is the time that we put into it. And it felt super rewarding, especially being kids from Riverside that never would have thought to be in a band, to have a record on a record label with some weird art that Dave Quiggle did. I mean, it's pretty cool. It's really cool.
That's very
just
cool.
Saying, like just for me to elaborate on our artwork. I mean, it looks pretty, cheesy, but I mean, it's insane. It's just like powering through all the chaos of the world, and there's just one dude that's somewhat hopeful.
Yeah.
It's pretty relatable even today, people that are just like holding on to whatever they're believing in hopes that things will get better.
Totally.
That's
awesome.
That's what we did. So
that's cool, bro. Sweet, man. So you hit the road. Obviously, you said the first week sales were great, and obviously FaceTime, I assume, was stoked. And so you hit the road. Who are you touring with at this time, and how long after that do you start to work on the Serpent?
So our first tours were with Whitechapel, My Children, My Bride. Those were the Cornerstone days too. I remember Whitechapel couldn't play because they weren't Christian. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. But they got on so much stuff. I remember we played a show at the Art Gallery in Tampa, Florida, which is like it was a very I grew up skateboarding, me and Brooke did, so we were like very familiar with certain places. And Tampa skate park was like a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, like so many famous skateboarders came out of there and skate there. But they had like a little art gallery where they had shows there. And Whitechapel had I remember when the Metal Blade dudes came to check out Whitechapel for the first time.
Wow.
They were like, oh dang, that's super sick, super cool. They were on their own journey, of course. And which led them to a lot of success. I'm super happy for them. But it's cool to start at the same kind of time in a sense, and see each other's progression, which is very special. Sure. But yeah, we toured with them, and then believe it or not, we started touring with Dead to Fall kind of a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah, I love them. All those guys were super amazing. Just the way that they played music and how they expressed themselves was super cool to me. The guitar player Logan was super inspiring. Like he was just like kind of reminded me of like he had like this monkey feel from Korn, but also like Jim Root. He was like very like slouchy. He had long hair and he would just kind of like groove. And the music was a little bit more complicated, super intriguing. But I mean, they were all so well put together. Tim Java, that drummer, was amazing, and it was just like seeing a real kind of band, you know. They had a big backdrop. It was just cool to witness just these bands on these different levels that kind of shaped us to be better and to have a better perception and a better theatrical performance, and just be better musically. Yeah, we toured with them. I forgot who else was on that tour. Oh, it's like with Dead Hands Rising, Dead to Fall, and I think it was Winds of Plague. Nice. Winds of Plague. So they were our local homies too, but they were already much bigger than us, and Johnny and them. It was cool. It was super cool to hang out with them, and they were super heavy too. They were like they had so many similarities to Bleeding Through because they had a keyboardist too. But I think Winds of Plague was much like just more like heavy in our world, you know what I mean? Bleeding Through was obviously way more solidified, and in their like song structures were beautiful. You know, they were just on a totally different level. You know, they were just a way bigger kind of like entity, and it was super great. And then the Scream the Prayer tours came about. Oh yeah. After. So I believe that was in 2008 or 2007 or 2008. I was still a senior in high school and doing all this.
That's crazy. Nuts, dude.
I barely went to school. I remember I would let my teachers know that I'm going on tour, and they would just be super excited for me. Oh. And they would give me packets of work, but they would always be like, "Oh, just bring me something back, and I'll pass you." And I'm like, "Okay." That's like Riverside, California for you. That's cool. Yeah, that's Northern Vista High School. Yeah, you don't really have to be much to graduate from Alvord, but very fortunate for the experience. But yeah, those tours we felt safe. There was a lot of times where we toured where, you know, we're this Christian band where there was so much unpredictability. You know, we didn't know what we were sometimes getting ourselves into. Yeah. There was like some shows where, you know, we got like a gun pulled out on us in Virginia Beach. Yeah, insane stuff, like fights. Luckily, we've never really experienced like getting like booed or shouted out for our beliefs or anything like that. However, there probably was one time where we're just like, all right, we need to get off the stage. Like these people do not like us, you know. Very rare. I'm very surprised, you know, because right now it's a time where like, you know what? God is coming back, and people are way more faithful now than they were. But a couple of years ago, like, God was not cool, you know? Yeah. The belief, the idea of something positive was not cool. It was all about, like...
Especially in metal music.
Yeah, especially in metal music, you know, but it's a lot of the times it's always a gimmick. But, you know, it is what it is, whatever. It's cool. It's different. But, yeah, we're fortunate enough to not experience a lot of that kind of hatred or
it's great.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, we were always kind of accepted. I mean, I'm sure people were like, yeah, it's kind of corny, but people were always cool with us. They were super nice to us. So yeah,
Love
we're
that.
very lucky.
Love
But
that.
yeah, like transitioning to Scream the Prayer tour, I mean, it was just a bunch of, there was a mission, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Where it was like kind of like this safe haven for us to do what we were kind of intended to do at the time.
Yeah.
And it's just to express love and acceptance, you know. It's hard. Like it's hard for a lot of people to find acceptance in things, and the life is chaos. So there wasn't many, well, I mean, it's different for so many people. Like I know I felt a lot of acceptance in just going to shows, you know.
Yeah,
There's
same here.
this camaraderie in music that a lot of people kind of have this immense connection to, and you feel good, you know, you feel like you're a part of something.
Absolutely.
But Scream the Prayer was kind of like our thing, where it was just like a bunch of Christian bands, and we're also still diverse, but had this one focus, and it was cool. It was it just felt like we were doing something right, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was super successful. It was great.
That's awesome.
And yeah, we did that a couple years, and it just came time to really sit down with each other and start writing a kind of like more mature record. Because once you get off these tours, you kind of want to be like, you know, you kind of want to level up in the sense of like you
Sure.
want to be better. And we've always had that. I think a lot of people in this industry have that, and that's why they progress. I mean, we just want to progress. So
Yeah.
we sat down. I mean, there was a lot of like resentment with each other in Serpent Servant, like a lot of like picking sides within, like when you're in a band, like people hang out with each other and some people feel
Mhm.
outed, and it's just like internal little kid drama where yeah, it's like who cares more about the band kind of sense, because we're actually, you know, it was our thing now. It was becoming like who we are. We play music now for a living. Like this is our life. So it was like this unspoken rule of contribution with the band. Like I had a girlfriend at the time, so my contribution was probably much less just because I had that, and the dudes were always like together. But yeah, we sat down and really focused on our songwriting. There was a lot of songs like David contributed, Corey and myself, but lots of ups and downs in our personal relationships. But I think that aggression kind of like helped shape the songs.
Sure.
And yeah, like Corey brought in a lot of like more kind of like structured stuff just because of his writing with Death Star and Sleeping Giant. So it was just like more structure, but it was difficult for him to kind of create like a more like a technical like parts, in the sense of where I was kind of like good at, and he had like the super good structure. But then he also contributed really great riffs and
Sure.
etc. And so did David. But yeah, the first song we wrote was Serpent Servant, and it was this kind of like fast, more aggressive song that just completely slowed down in the middle of it. And we love that.
Yeah.
We did that in parts with like in our old songs like Condemned, they were super fast, and then we just slow down and then go fast again, and then kind of like these unexpected break measures. But that was the first one we wrote, and we're like, okay, well, this is the beginning of something new, the new era of Doom. So we kind of took that song, and you know, it was cool because everyone had like a good piece of that song. Like I think it was David that wrote a lot of the beginning. Maybe him and Coy wrote the middle kind of section, and then I wrote kind of like the end of it, like
That's cool.
this like single string. Yeah, it was it's cool to reflect on now and like think of all of our pieces, because I feel like you know, the more heads are better than one, you know,
Sure.
in the sense. Sure. But it's hard to get everyone kind of together now. So just reflecting now and be like, oh, we all would sit together and write. It's kind of cool. Yeah. And then I believe the second song that we wrote was More Than Conquerors. And
Nice.
Then, yeah, that was like the staple structure song. Like it had like repeating parts, chorus, big fun kind of little single string breakdown at the end with a pretty cool build up. And that was kind of it for us. We're like, okay, I think we figured out how to write songs, you know?
That's
So then
awesome.
we started incorporating that with everything else. We had some like really cool art from this dude, and I don't know, from Europe. And everything was lined up perfect for that. Our first tour off that was Unearth, Immure, us,
Wow.
and Born of Osiris. So yeah, that record came out, and it did amazing.
Yeah, I was
we
gonna
were
say,
on that
was
tour.
it huge? Was it way bigger?
It was big. Yeah, it was way bigger. But by this point, it wasn't us just doing like our crappy, like tours throughout the U.S. You know, every single tour we had from Serpent Servant was with like a staple band.
It's great.
Like it was like Unearth, you know. And I remember listening to Unearth in high school with Brooke, like The Great Divide, and like Black Hearts Now Reign, like things like where we're playing with this band. Like this is
That's
crazy.
So cool. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and those guys were super cool to us. They gave us like a big jug of peanut butter and white bread, and that's what we lived off of.
That's
It's
awesome.
so crazy because we didn't give a shit. You know, we didn't care. We didn't care about all that other stuff. I think our guarantees were nothing. We were just so excited to play.
Be on the road. Yeah. Yeah.
Be on the road.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
man.
and it was super crazy. It was a different lens, you know, a different focus. Yeah, and then our tour after that was, I think we did a Bleeding Through tour. It was Bleeding Through, Acacia Strain, and My Children, My Bride, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, and then after that we did. Wait, it was a Declaration tour. It was Bleeding Through. I don't remember, but I know that we did August Burns Red, Acacia Strain, My Children, My Bride. And then, so it was cool to play with My Children, My Bride again after like time had passed and we both kind of like, kind of progressed. There were like moments where, because we were like alternate the spots. It's so like, you know, politics within it.
Yeah.
And like we were kind of like on the same kind of radar. So some nights they would get like upset because we played over them. It's so funny. Robert, if you're listening to this is funny. Politics and music, it's so lame.
Politics, schmaltics.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, you sold more records here, you're bigger here, so you play here.
Yeah.
It's just like, back then I can't believe I cared so much.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean,
like, let's just play.
That's the time and the age, you know. Obviously, that's something, you know, you look back and you're like, man, I was a fool. But I mean, everyone does it, unfortunately. So
everyone does it, yeah.
What are
yeah,
your thoughts?
That was it.
What are your thoughts on the Serpent looking back? Like you mentioned earlier with Nail Dead Risen, like how do you feel about it? And is it something that obviously it sounds like you're proud of it? So just kind of what your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm very proud of it. I mean, we did the record with Daniel Castleman at Tim Lambesis' house. So we would see Tim from As I Lay Dying here and there, you know, and he would listen in and we'd be like, oh shit, this is Tim Lambesis. You know what I mean? We would forget, like, dude, we're just these kids from the Inland Empire, you know what I mean? Like, just these punk kids who really have no idea what we were really in until like moments would settle in, like these moments of like epiphanies where we're just like, oh shit, this is what we're doing. Yeah. You know, sorry for cussing, but
no, you're fine, dude.
But yeah, these moments, these heavy moments of awareness would just be like, boom, where we're here. So reflecting on Serpent Servant, yeah, I'm very proud of it. The recording was like much more polished and better than Nail Dead Risen, but also we didn't kind of like that. We didn't like that it was like super polished. We didn't like that the guitar tone was like super clean. There was like not enough grit to it. But you know, it's like anything, and you're not really going to be ultimately satisfied with everything.
Sure,
being an artist. Sure. But yeah, at the time, it was a big deal for us. We're like, whoa, we're like turning into a band. I remember at the time too, there was like shirts of our band in Hot Topic.
Whoa.
You know, and it's like being. I don't think I was even 18. You know, I think I was like 18, not even 19. With that kind of, I guess it was some kind of success, you know, traveling North America, all over, and just being like, whoa, like I didn't really think about it, you know.
Yeah.
It was just fun for us, like I said. But yeah, those moments were getting more serious, where we're like, okay, we need to be more serious. We need to
more intentional. You know, yeah.
More intentional. We need to get the most up to date gear. We need to be playing we started shifting our mindset into how we're going to get even more bigger as opposed to continuing to do our own thing.
Totally.
Does that make any sense? So,
absolutely. And looking from the outside perspective, I think you were creating the brand of Impending Doom. It was
kind of an.
and I think you were successful at it because you guys kind of rose pretty quick and you stayed up there, and it was something that, like I said, the brand, I think of it, it kind of gave people a badge of honor that were into it. It was really cool that people, related to the music and related to the songs and could get behind it. I think that's really cool that you guys were intentional about that. That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, we were kids that loved shows, so I think that has something to say about it. We really cared about our scene. We really cared about our music and the music we listened to. And we would just go to shows, Me and Brooke would literally go to whatever show we could, backyard shows, Showcase, Chain. We would go to shows in San Diego. We just loved it. So there was that, I think. And then there's that kind of like translates into the music too. Like I felt like people knew that we cared, Yeah. So I think that's something to reflect on that contributes to maybe our early success for sure.
Absolutely. So the next record, There Will Be Violence, another departure. Let's talk about that record a little bit. And, obviously you're still hitting the road pretty heavy. And let's talk about that record and kind of your mindset on that record as well.
So There Will Be Violence. I mean, there was immense violence between us in the band. We really didn't see eye to eye anymore, especially me. Like, me and Brooke had some personal conflict. And then, I had some personal conflict with one of the guitar players who was like my best friend. I got him into the band, as Corey Johnson. Then we kind of just like grew apart. So I was kind of like the rebellious kind of one. I was so against like drinking and stuff. And like I slowly started like, getting into that. I was just getting older, I was a young kind of like punk kid. I was like starting to listen to more kind of chaotic music. I went to like this crazy like Burzum phase. I went to like this like, I don't know. I just went into like this like super, like, I don't know, kind of like dark phase in my life. I mean, I always liked, dark music, but I was just like really getting into some pretty
heavy stuff,
crazy stuff. Yeah. Like I got really into like Goatsnake. I got really into just different types of music, like stoner music, stoner rock. And I loved it. I loved it so much. And I still listen to all of that today. I mean, I listen to like, I just found this band called like Mars Red Sky that's like super heavy, but I listen to bands like Dozer. It's just kind of like endless.
Yeah.
I'm super into it. My friend got me into this band called All Them Witches, and it's just like the most amazing thing ever. But it's like psych. It's kind of like in the realm of like King Gizzard, but King Gizzard is like super heavy, like Macedonish, Kings of the Stone Age. But my relationships with them started falling apart. And I think there was like so much seriousness within the band that I just could not align with anymore. Like, I remember we would go through these dumb phases. I remember when the band Beneath the Massacre came out and the people were like super into sweeps. And like it felt like you had to know, like just growing up in the bubble, like, progress, like, oh, people are doing this now. You got to do this now. You got to do this now. So we kind of lost like I feel like we kind of like lost our true identity. Like in who we were and the reasons why we were doing things. So I left the band. Like it was a departure thing where we were just all kind of like talked about it. I wasn't involved in the recording process of There Will Be Violence. And it was the first time I left like my baby, my band. Yeah, so it was super heavy for me. I was a super emotional kid. Very passionate. I mean, I still am. But it was hard for me. It was like me and Brooke started this band, everything that I've done. For me to be away from it, it sucked.
Yeah.
And in the moments where I felt the lowest, and I still, talk about these stories today to certain people, I would pray, like genuinely. I would have nothing. I had nothing, and sure enough, like, some of the stuff that I've learned in scripture and has always been very apparent in my life. Obviously, I don't, talk about it as often, and I'm like shouting at everyone because of it. But when one door closes, another one opens.
Yeah.
And I remember I got an email from Ryan Downey, who was like managing Bleeding Through, Tiger Army, like a lot of Demon Hunter, a lot of big bands at the time. And I left Impending Doom, right, and I kind of like prayed. And the next week, I had this opportunity where Ryan Downey asked me to try out for Bleeding Through.
Crazy.
This was in like 2010, and I was like, shoot, like might as well try out, and I got it.
That's nuts.
I got it. So I transitioned from leaving Impending Doom and being heartbroken to touring with Bleeding Through, this staple band from Orange County that had done massive Slayer tours, Marilyn Manson tours, has done Ozfest. So it was kind of like another level of experience for me, and I was super excited. And the dudes were super cool. I got to play guitar with Dave Nassy, who is one of the best guitar players ever. Yeah, he has. He's with this massive country artist now, but it was very motivational and influencing playing with someone who's just like so fluid at guitar. He would always tell me like the most simplest things that have the biggest impact on me, like you're thinking too hard, just play it, just play it. Something, and it would just, I don't know, my guitar playing in that era was probably the best because of Dave Nassy. So shout out to him. But yeah, I transitioned. I mean, they still use some of my parts in some songs for that record. But yeah, during that era, it was salty. We didn't really communicate, but I was doing my own thing and they were doing their own thing. And so, but from my understanding, in looking at Impending Doom as a whole, There Will Be Violence was probably the worst record that the band put out. The sales weren't as good. I don't think they did that big of tours. I mean, there were some good songs that I really enjoyed on that record that I got to play later. But yeah, I think that was like a big kind of reflection of what the band was kind of growing through and the direction. It was just kind of like all over the place. It was very confused, but that's after that. I think they started working with Mike Milford as manager, and they got linked up with E1 when I was I was touring with Bleeding Through.
Okay,
and they put out Baptized in Filth, so it was kind of like a reawakening of Impending Doom. I feel like this record really. There Will Be Violence was kind of like set them back a little bit, but this record brought them back up. They wrote great songs.
What was your viewpoint? I know you said it was kind of a bummer at first when you kind of left the band, but hearing those two records, did you feel left out? Did you feel you wanted to be back in? Like, what were your thoughts in those times?
In those times, I was just angry. I was like, I was a super angry kid at that kind of phase, so I didn't really care. But like slowly, like to be completely honest with you, I don't think that I've listened to even now like There Will Be Violence from beginning to end. To be completely honest, like I remember I phased through it just because I was like pissed. I was like, I wonder what songs they used that I wrote, and that's like why I listened to it. And I would be like, oh my gosh, I wrote that part. That's funny they used it. Oh my gosh, I wrote this part. That's funny they used it. So in a sense,
yeah.
It's more like pity, kind of just like, I was just young, very immature. But yeah, I mean, I think, I wasn't really a part of it, but I think that, there was a lot of the conflict kind of affected the music for sure. Sure. But I think, I'm sorry, I totally lost your question.
No, you're fine. I was just saying how you, and you answered it, how you felt about it and hearing those two records.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess subsequently, what kind of brought you back to the fold for Death Will Reign?
Oh, so this is funny. My first tour back, well, this is the thing. So I just got back. I think I did a Parkway Drive tour in Europe with Bleeding Through and Immure and Comeback Kid, and it was insane. I had just turned 21 in Europe, and I was just this party animal kid. It was pretty crazy. We had some crazy nights, lots of stories. But I remember just sound checking on that tour. Like there were 10,000 cap venues at some venues. It was the biggest shows I've ever played. I remember sound checking one of the first nights and just hearing my guitar just kind of like echo down.
Wow.
Whoa, this is insane. This is another level. But yeah, Bleeding Through kind of like slowed down. It was just like perfect timing. Impending Doom put out Baptized in Filth, and the songs were great, but they were touring with like Chimera, and I think Chimera was kind of like on the way out, and also like Bleeding Through was kind of like having like, I don't know, it was just an interesting time for music. Like some of the bands were really big, other bands weren't. I mean, it was just like, it was just tough. Like a lot of people didn't know if it was like a kind of a point where it's like, should we continue to do this or should we not? So Bleeding Through just kind of took a step back. I mean, then life happens too, you know what I mean? Like, sure, everyone has different things going on. Brandon had a gym he was really focusing on. I think Marta was going to have kids with Phil Demmel at the time. It was just so much. So, music sometimes slows down. But through all of that, I was playing with my other homies in a local band called The Devastated. There were these guys that started this band called Obliged. And in our eyes, they were like the local, the kids. They were
I booked them once. I booked them once with someone. I don't remember who.
Yeah, Eric Correa's like guitar playing, and Greg Wilburn. The contribution that they all had, or they were kind of like the elite musicians in our area and growing up. So I remember me and Brooke would go to their practices and be like, oh, these dudes are the sickest, super cool. They're like the band that should have been like the biggest band. Yeah. But I don't know. They were set up. They were doing so many great things, but just things just happen. But their skill and creativity and music is undeniable to so many people. And I was lucky enough to get to play with them, and it was so much fun.
That's
my
cool.
Gosh, it was like careless. We did whatever we wanted. It was like kind of how we did Impending Doom, but this time it was just we were just pissed off. So yeah, while doing all that, I just got done doing a massive tour, and that was just playing like smaller shows with The Devastated, but it was like the funnest thing ever.
Sure.
The best time. But then that kind of like slowed down. And I remember I was just sitting at home in my room, and I get a phone call from Brooke. He calls me, and he's like, hey man, what's up? And I was like, not much, so-and-so. And I haven't really talked to him in years. And he's like, we want you to come back. And I was like, what? Like, what happened? And he's like, well, we had another falling out. So, yeah, I mean, in that sense, it was kind of like bittersweet.
Sure.
To be asked to come back to my band. But also, like, I was just kind of like, I don't know. I was just kind of like an asshole in the sense of like, all right, you guys see it, you know what I mean? Kind of in the sense of like my departure and et cetera. Like, okay, you guys have like, now you kind of felt like how I kind of felt in certain situations. I don't know. There was some kind of like
confirmation or that they understood where you were coming from.
Yeah, maybe I felt like a little bit of like karma. Like I'm like, yeah, that's right. Like now you're kind of asking me to come back to my band, but also like I was very happy.
Yeah.
Because it was my band. Like it was
totally
our band. Something that we kind of started. So I was like, all right. I mean, there was a lot of personal crap that happened in between all of the chaos, like petty stuff.
Sure.
But it was nice to be asked to come back to my band, and I've been back ever since.
That's sweet, man. Did you feel rejuvenated?
Yeah, my first tour back was Warped Tour. We did Warped Tour, so it was an experience to be back with everyone. And then we did Australia back to back, and we did like Costa Rica, Puerto Rico. It was a different time for Doom. It was more like, all right, we're all back together. Let's have fun. Let's do something different. Then Eric, my great friend who was in Obliged and The Devastated, I brought him with us. I was like, let's just come, get a little, you deserve like a taste of this. You know what I mean? You're such a great musician. You've been killing yourself for like $100 a day. Like now that I'm back in my band, I want you to be a part of this too, because I feel like your contribution is going to help this band progress immensely.
That's so cool.
So I brought him on, and everyone loved him. Eric is so lovable, and he's such a interesting human, very intelligent, but yeah, very interesting and fun. And it became this new chapter where we wrote Death Will Reign. It was like, it's probably the record that I'm honestly most proud of.
Okay,
because
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
So much of me, like, it's been some time since I've wrote. I kind of want to show everyone what I've kind of been through, and I've been through so much, and after touring with like Bleeding Through, and my absence in the band and my songwriting, and I think it was enough. I think it was like, yeah, it's like we worked with Will Putney, and it was like right when Will Putney was he was taking off. He was recording at the machine shop, but he wasn't like. I mean, he was getting there, you know, and Will is still such a good friend of ours that I texted him songs, and I sent him this one song. It's called I believe it's called The Great Divide, and before I didn't have a name for it, but I would just send him songs that were just like music, no vocals on it. And he wrote me back, and he called me after I sent it to him. He's like, dude, this song is so cool, dude. It's like so different. And after listening to this song, I'm like super excited to do this record with you guys.
That's really cool.
And it was like crazy confirmation with my songwriting and my progression that my friend liked my song. So I was like super, super excited. And we went in and we had so many songs. We were so prepared just because like Eric was part of the band, and it's like iron sharpens iron, you know. He would send me songs that he's written, and I would send him songs. And we literally probably had together like 30-something songs.
Holy cow.
Yeah, we would just like knock songs out. It was just like what we did. And we sat down with all the songs, and we chose, I think it was 15 we chose to record. I think we only put like 13 or 12 on the record, so there were still some other ones that we recorded that we never released that we have. Maybe we'll put them out sometime, but yeah, we worked on those, polished them up. I mean, there's some great songs on that record. Yeah. Man, it's super fun. But I remember first time hearing like the self-titled track, Death Will Reign, there's like this like part in the middle, it's like single string, kind of like chorusy riff. Hearing it back after like B-Town did his drums on it, Brandon, who was a phenomenal drummer for the IE, like being in a room with everyone together and like listening, not even mixed and mastered, and just being like, whoa, That's so nuts. Stoked on this. I'm so stoked on this.
That's cool.
Yeah, we're like all super happy, and it was it was a great time for our band and for us as a band together.
Yeah. Were you
super special?
That's awesome. I love hearing that in your voice. It sounds obviously genuine, and I love that you can look back on that, and it was kind of a reunion of sorts for you, and also to a new beginning for you in the band, and it just seems like it shows through the record, you know, which is cool.
Yeah.
What were you guys touring still full time at this point, or were you starting to do less touring?
No, it was less touring. Brooke was having kids. Brooke wasn't even in the studio with us at the machine shop in New Jersey, I believe. It was just us 4 musicians. It was me, David, Eric, and B-Town. And we were there for like a month. I think we're like 3 weeks, just recording, tracking, you know, riffing. Yeah, it was a little difficult to kind of juggle because we had to fly Will out to California, and Brooke had to come and sing. I think he was singing at Andrew Glover's studio, who's another member of Winds of Plague, who's a great friend of all of ours too. We recorded songs there. So yeah, it was a little bit of like back and forth, but we got it done. It was a pain in the butt. And then touring was a little slow, but we did like a local thing with Winds of Plague off that record. And then what else did we do off that record? We did more tours. I think we did more like fly out stuff. But yeah, the touring definitely has slowed down.
Yeah.
But it was great. It was great.
That's awesome, man. And so you're on a bigger label at this point, the E1. How are the sales pretty big, or obviously comparison to Facedown? Is the label stoked on it? How's that going?
Yeah, I remember I actually met up with the label in New York. I was there for work with my company, and then with the brand that I work for. And then I had lunch with some of the dudes at E1. They were super, super stoked on the songs. they were super kind, like just getting to hang out with them, and yeah, it was an awesome experience. But you're under contract, so you're limited to so many things, so and so, and we wanted to kind of, slowly transition and take things into our own hand. That was the ultimate goal at the end. And,
Sure.
people were starting to do their own thing and becoming successful at it, and we're like, well, why do we need this now? But yeah, during the time, I mean, E1 was amazing to us. They definitely put the band in a different kind of like route, where I think they had Crowbar on their label. They had so many like, great bands that we loved, and we're like, whoa, we're under this now. It's just another kind of moment of realization. So it definitely helped, I feel like, but
Yeah.
we were also wanting to do things ourselves.
Sure.
So it helped for sure. We learned a lot, contract wise, understanding. I remember David was going back and forth with the lawyer, understanding what our rights are and what we have, and what we're entitled to. It's a lot, man.
I bet.
Back in the day, you don't really pay attention to that kind of stuff. You're just excited when you sign a
You're like, let's sign
contract.
the dotted
It's like,
line.
yeah, it's like you don't own any of your YouTube views. You don't own any of your Spotify streams, and that's when people started making money off streams and stuff, and we didn't own any of it. It's kind of sucked. So, yeah, we started becoming a little bit smarter. And wanting different things, etc. So now, E1 was always super great to us, but we finished the contract with them, and we are
independent.
We're independent now. Officially.
You're an indie band, bro.
We're an indie band. Yeah, this next record is going to be so indie.
Was Sin and Doom Volume 2 on E1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Let's briefly talk about that one real quick. That was kind of your last foray with E1. So, was that the band's back together again, still crushing it, still feeling the same vibe?
Yep, but this time we wanted to do something kind of more punk rock in the sense we wanted songs to be fast, slammy. We just wanted to get in and kind of get out. We didn't want to have any kind of fillers. So we did have a lot of songs for it. The Sin and Doom Volume 2. A lot of people didn't understand that title because we released an EP in the very beginning of our career, and it was just a few songs, some of our strongest songs. So we kind of wanted to do that again for just like the local, like Doom heads, you know what I mean? The OG Doom fans that really understood. Yeah. We just wanted to put a couple songs out that were our best songs, that were fast. There was no fat, no filler. And yeah, it was great. I hooked up with this local dude, Jacob, and we tracked all the songs, sent them back and forth to everyone. And yeah, we're just like, let's just do it. I think there was less thought in this, so it was like more fun, less pressure, more us. And yeah, it was just like what we wanted to do. So we did that.
That's awesome. Looking back on it, how do you feel about that record?
Looking back at it, I mean, there's some things that I really like Satanic Panic. It's just like perfect for the time, like just coming out of COVID and all the chaos in the world.
Yeah.
People panicking, I think it was just perfect. It was fast. We did like every little thing that we were kind of good at, in a new kind of like creative way, in the song musically. Like super fast, aggressive, like single string riffs, of pretty cool breakdowns, whammy parts, and weird little leads. And Brooks' constant aggression throughout the song was just perfect. There's a lot of built up stuff, I think, in everyone during COVID. If you didn't align with a lot of the madness that was going on, or if you thought that the government really like cared about you and you were being like spoon fed. There's so many different aspects of it, but regardless, I think that a lot of people were frustrated. So yeah, that's like the first song that we wanted to kind of push, was like this chaos, like this panic. So yeah, it was great. Man. And then we had a really mature song that, I don't know, it's my favorite song on it. It's called Hellbent. That song is just heavy. That chorus is probably one of the best choruses Brooke has ever like vocally written. There's a lot of like personal stuff that he was going through, that he got to express in the song, that was like, not just another like, you're going to go to hell if you don't do this. You know what I mean? It was kind of like a little bit more personal touch. And I think that makes that song kind of really stand out for the listener if the person is interested in listening, you know. But yeah, I mean, there's all the culture of death on it. It was just heavy. Like, we just wanted to do like a fucking big breakdown.
Yeah.
Like, consistently. And it worked out so well.
Yeah, it sounds great. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was just pissed. No fat. Just gave it to him and got out. So it was super fun. I love doing it. And I hope to do something like that relatively soon. I mean, we have a lot of songs again. And we're just weeding through them, making sure they're the ones that we kind of want to put out.
That's awesome, man. Dude, I've really enjoyed this conversation, man. It's been so cool to hear it in your voice and hear how psyched you are, and looking in the past, maybe some things you hadn't thought about in a while. And I just really have enjoyed it, and I really appreciate you coming on my podcast and telling me these awesome stories. And man, I'm really stoked to be a part of it, man. Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I mean, this has been amazing. I mean, listen, like stories from the road, I can unlock so many. It's so funny because I have like certain people that I like share stories with, and you don't get to always talk about them. So it's kind of cool to reflect on our lives in that specific category of our life or that specific bubble. It was a great time. Awesome. And it is a great time, and I'm happy to talk about it. Manny, you rule. It's been a while, and hopefully it won't be a while before we see each other again, but I really, really appreciate you, your friendship, and just in general, I just appreciate what you've done for music. So thank you so much. Thanks, and man. Hope to see you soon, buddy. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. We do, for anyone who's listening to this, Impending Doom has a show in Austin, Texas this Friday. Not this Friday, next week. Sick. If you guys are in there, please come out. It's going to be a great time with us and our homies and Within the Ruins at Come and Take It Live. And check out impendingdoommerch.com for all the latest merch drops. Yeah, bro. Looks sick. All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon. All right, man. Thanks so much, Jeremy. All right. Bye.
Thank you to the listener for tuning in to this latest episode. Thank you so much for all the kind words and likes and all that stuff. If you'd like to add me on Instagram and Facebook, you can at the Rumors Are True Cast. Like and subscribe if you like. You know the drill. Thank you to Manny Contreras. Awesome conversation. It was so cool to reconnect. It had been a while. So hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, guys. So got some amazing artists on the horizon. And man, nostalgia is still a hell of a drug.